And let's start with the recap. What I'll do again is just to look on the application. So once you register with RISE and open an application, this is your landing page. This is what it would look like. And then you'll have 3 parts that you'll need to complete by the 17th of January. The first one is about you. So you'll fill up your profile, talk a little bit about yourself, aspirations, and overcoming challenges. So these are the 2 questions you'll have to answer about yourself. Aspirations is why do you need this opportunity? And overcoming challenges is how have you responded to adversity in your life in general? It doesn't have to be connected to your project here. So talk about yourself. What challenges have you faced in your life? And what lessons have you learned from them? It could inspire your project in one way or another, but this is not what the project part is, where you talk about those specific challenges. So the second part is the project, where you'll have 3 text or videos to record, depending on the internet connection that you have. If you have good internet connection, please do record or upload your internet. If you don't have access or limited access to the internet or data, then probably is better to answer by text. So you have the focus and research, the design and plan, and act and reflect. So far, we have covered focus and research, design, and today we will cover plan. And in the next sessions, we will continue on act and reflect. Okay. And then the third part is the assessment, which you can take already now. There's one that is a quiz, and then there's another one that's a game that you can play, both around 30 minutes that you'll need to sort of dedicate or make sure that you have those 30-40 minutes ready when you start the application, when you start the quiz or the game. Okay, so this is an overview really of your application. You can see how much do you complete from it, or whether it's completed. Once all these 3 parts are complete, you can hit the submit button. Yeah. Well, once you submit, you will be able to see other people's projects and recordings and texts, which is a peer review. So you'll be able to also score their, give a score to their projects. And that will be, the deadline for that is 31st of January. So your project is by the 17th of January, but the review of other projects is by the 31st of January. You have a little bit more time for that. Okay, so this is that's a general overview of what you'll need to do as part of your RISE challenge. So to dive deeper into the RISE project, you have the focus and research. Well, you'll need to establish a focus area for your RISE project, do your research about your project, and then present your project and reflect on your thinking or assumptions after you've done your project. In the second part, the design and plan, you'll do an outline of your project, of your project goals, and that's what we were working on last week. Is how do you draft your goals and how do you design your goals? And today we would look at the solution designed, or how the planning of how do you execute those goals or objectives that you've set for your goal. And then in the next weeks, we will continue on the act and reflect and ethical considerations. So for in order to answer the design and plan, a good response to this question will answer the following 3 questions, or 3 prompts that we're giving you to consider as you're recording your video or answering by text. The first one is, what are your intended project goals and rationale for why you have chosen them? And that's what we covered in the previous session last week. In today's session, we will cover this question, which is, what is the solution and project plan you have designed to achieve your goals? Okay, and in the next sessions, what I will do is mix the ethical considerations with the act and reflect, because it will need to be connected, how you think about it here and how you reflect about it in the act and reflect session. Sorry. So to start today's session, I'll just start with a quick question that please I'll ask you to share your thoughts about in the chat. Why does my project need a plan? Why is planning important? Why do I need to have a plan for my project? Please use the chat to write down your answers, and we'll read them. So it can run smoothly. Yes, absolutely. You'll have a clear vision. It gives a goal, so as to guide me meet all my intended goals. Yes. The plan is the way to achieve the goal. Yes. It helps organizing times and dates. Thank you, Gloria. Or Andrea. Sorry, your name is still showing as Gloria, but I remember you said Andrea. To give precise direction, so you don't lose Meg in it, to have a roadmap, to know what you're doing in full and its merits, so I'm not overwhelmed later. These are all amazing answers. I think we should plan so as to do the process smoothly and to make sure that the vision is fulfilled, to make it simpler for you, to be organized and know where to start. Absolutely. Thank you all for your great answers. They're all true, and they're all why we need to really think about having a clear plan from the beginning. I just drafted a few things here for you today, which is your project needs to have a plan to make sure that all the practical aspects of your idea are considered. So you need to be realistic about the resources that you have to complete your project, which will include time, which you guys have mentioned now in the chat. You also need to, and for the timing is thinking about also the timeline of the RISE challenge, right? Because there is a deadline to when you need to have executed has some sort of an impact before you can submit your application. You need to also carefully think about the allocation of resources to make sure that you don't run out of them by the end of that time, whether it's depending on the types of resources that you have, your time, because you also have other commitments, whether it's school or family or whatever other things that you're doing in your life, whether it's posters, for example, or skills that you need to gain in order to execute your project. So there's quite a few things that you need to consider and think about now and make sure that you have a plan for it. And how do I create a plan for my project is what we will try and do in the session today. Right, so we'll break down the project goals that you have worked on in the previous session into steps. So within the timeline that you have between now and the end of the RISE challenge deadline, so you can really then have a date per step and make sure that you can achieve them by the deadline. Okay, so that's what we will be going on today. And just as another example, since there has been some amazing ideas in the chat, I'll ask you just one more thing before. What I would like to do after this one is actually do it in smaller groups, so we can actually go into breakout rooms and think about and discuss some of the steps together with our peers on this call. But just as an example, so if the goal of my project, one of the goals of my project is to bring a theater performance to the orphanage in my town, so that is one of the goals that I would like to achieve. What would be the first step towards achieving this goal? So what would you think about as the first thing that you need to do in order to bring a theater performance to an orphanage in your town? Start working on seeing who is willing to participate. Great. And I'm assuming, Karim, that you mean in terms of the theater performances, right? That are willing to participate in this. Visiting the orphanage. Great idea. These are two great steps. Yes, exactly. Thanks for confirming. Mukai is asking me to repeat the question. So what we're doing now is just an exercise to think about how do we plan for the goals that we've set for our projects, right? So, and if a goal for your project is, as an example, to bring a theater performance to the orphanage in my town. So I would like to bring a theater performance to the orphanage in my town. What would be the first step towards achieving this goal? To gain the permission of the orphanage and scout out the orphanage for potential spots where the performance could take place. Great. Creating a play to perform. Yeah, start working on the important steps to make sure the required logistics are available. I'll check the resources needed if I can afford. Okay, so these are all great first steps, right? And from actually speaking to the orphanage and seeing if they have a place for this. And then there are some really good other steps like finding the theater performance that would actually be suitable for this location, and if they're also willing to come and do it at the orphanage. And many, you'll be surprised that many will be able to do it for free just because it's an orphanage and they'd like to do something like that, right? So these are really great first steps that you have mentioned. There are some that are also going as far as creating the performance themselves, right? And that is another, again, that's a great step to have over there. And now you need to think about the other resources, you know, the time, the skills, or is there a theater that is ready that will come, a group that will come and perform, right? So depending on the timeline, if you have a long time, then yes, you can also create the play yourself, bring a group and make that performance yourself. So different steps, different ideas, as you can imagine over here. And what would be then the last step towards achieving this goal? What would you think should be the last step towards achieving this goal? The step that may take time and maybe the hardest one too. So you'll put it as the last step so you have time and okay, nice thinking. Coordinating the logistics. Inviting people to watch the play. Setting up stage at the orphanage. These are all really great. And as you can imagine, as these steps are being written down on the chat, you can imagine then the priorities of how you can shift which one up and down. For example, you have the coordination of the logistics. You also have the inviting of the people to the play, and then you can think about which should come first and which should come then after that. Very good steps to right here. Informing people and sharing on social media again. The last step should be setting up logistics and sending invites. Great. So as we can see here, there's some really good ideas and really good steps, and debatable which one should be the last step and which one should be the one right before the step. Is it inviting people? Is it the logistics? Is it the setting up of the theater itself so that the group can perform? Which one comes first and which comes right before that is what we would like to do in this next small breakout rooms. So what we will do in this breakout rooms now is we will only do one breakout room session today. So we will give you a little bit more time for this session. And I realize that there are some people here who may have already got to the point where they want to start planning, but there are also some people who are still starting right now and thinking about their focus areas or doing their research now. So don't worry if you don't have a plan yet, right? The session today is designed to help you start thinking about your planning. So it's okay if you haven't gotten there yet. And if there are already people who are there and have the plan, please do share with the rest of the group what your goals are and start brainstorming the steps that you're taking or you will be taking to execute that goal. So what I'll do now is we will go into smaller breakout rooms. And what we will be doing is just pick one goal of your project. So your goal could be, as an example, bringing a speaker to my school to speak about the effects of the global warming in my town, for example. So that could be a goal. And then what are the steps that I will be taking to get that speaker to come to my school and speak about that topic? Maybe I start by researching online, finding the speakers, then maybe starting to get in touch with those speakers, sending emails. Maybe I see if we have any mutual connections that will help me speak to them or meet them, speak to the school when is the right times, right? And there are some steps that by the end, the last step would be probably is receiving the speaker or arranging for the speaker. If they're from the town, to come. They come on their own. If they're from outside of town, maybe they need some accommodation or a pickup from the airport or the train station, right? So there are some steps that I'll need to think about in order to help you think about what we have been discussing so far a little bit more, and that you can also take with you back to work on your project as well later. So this example here is just what we have been discussing so far. So if you have the objective or the goal of your challenge, you can have just one goal or one objective. For example, creating a YouTube channel to teach English. That could be the objective. Or it could be more than one objective. Cleaning the beach nearby, bringing a speaker to speak at my school, right? These could be smaller, and then like 2 or 3 objectives that you can have within your project. You'll also need to have, so the tool here will help you sort of make sure that these are realistic and think about when do you need to achieve those goals in the deadline of RISE. The deadline for RISE application is 17th of January. So ideally you need to have that deadline, or the latest deadline that you have, you need to have it a few days before the 17th of January so that you can have a little bit of time to record and sort of prepare your materials for the recording or the text responses that you'll be providing, right? So each objective, for example, calling a speaker to come to my school needs to happen by the 10th of January, right? The speaker needs to attend by the 10th of January, as an example, so that I have a little bit more time after that to record it. And then below that, you can start writing down the steps that need to happen in order to get to that. So I need to contact that speaker by the 25th of December. I need to organize logistics by the 1st of January. They attend by the 10th of January. So that kind of thinking will help you here to draw a clear plan with deadlines for yourself to really try and work on so that you can achieve that goal as well, right? So that's the second step, is really looking at the steps for each objective and the deadlines for each of those steps. And then what resources that you need. Some of them don't need money resources, like it could be I'm just emailing, so I just need internet, which is fine, but some might need a little bit more resources. Like if I'm speaking with the orphanage next door, like the example we had before, to bring a theater performance there. A theater performance might ask for fee, and a lot of the times they will be saying for free, right? So maybe there's some innovative ways of going around that, whether you're asking the orphanage to host you for free, or whether you're asking some organizations to actually fund that fee in order to bring that theater performance in there. So the resources doesn't mean that you need to spend it yourself. We're not expecting you to actually pay anything for that, but there's always innovative ways around it that will help you to secure these resources to make sure that the project happens. Okay, so this is the two things that will separate them, is what resources I need and where I get these resources. Okay, so these are the things that can help you think about each of those steps. And who are the people involved? It's either the speaker who needs to come into to my school, or is it the theater performance organizer that I need to speak with, or is it the head of the orphanage next door that I need to organize, or is it the logistics person in that orphanage? Who do I need to speak with? Right. So these are there's at least one tool that can help you flesh out the steps for each of these goals and help you maybe start thinking about deadlines. How do I really can achieve the goals that I am trying to work on, and make sure that it happens on time with the resources that are there. Now, this also helps you think that some of the goals that I am doing is unrealistic. It can't be happening within the timeline of RISE. So I need to think about better goals or goals that would fit that, right? So things that need a lot more time, or a lot of money that I can't afford, or I couldn't find organizations to fund it. So it's different, or the skills that I might not have, or I might need a lot of time to gain those skills. Or you can think about, once you write them, that you can connect with somebody who have those skills that will help you either build that website or do the performance or build some materials that you need or content. So this is a really helpful tool that can help you start thinking about your goals, the steps, and how can you start planning them within the timeline that you still have for Rise. Just a quick thing as well before I hand you over to my colleague Anna and Nick. There is you can always go to your application, and there are some really helpful resources. For example, if you open design and plan and you scroll down a little bit, there will be some resources in here that will help you exactly see what kind of the resources that Rise has provided for you. So a similar tool to this one will be provided in the Think Sheets, and there are some other really useful information and resources will be available there too.